All right, guys, we're going to get going. Hopefully you can hear me all right. I am going to share my screen. So I know that right now you're not seeing anything, but I'm going to share the screen here in a second. I'm the only one in the room, so I decided I would change up how I'm going to do this so that you can hear me a little bit better with my AirPods. Okay, let me get the screen share going here. Okay, hopefully everybody's seeing all that okay. Well, so here's what we're going to do is today we're going to be going through and talking about the Zap system, and I'm going to train you guys on how to get it set up and just kind of go through some of the basics and show you how to use it as a way of making some money. Now, let me give you the background on it first thing. So the first thing I want to just share with you guys in terms of all of this is the where it came from and things. Now, most of you probably will not have ever heard of the Zip Realty. You may or may not have, but if you've never heard of Zip Realty before, Zip Realty was a company that what happened is, let me give you kind of the background on it, is these guys decided that what they wanted to do is that they were going to start a company, and it was some guys that were doing their master's, or excuse me, doctorate program, and they were working on their PhD thesis, and they had this idea of we should come up with a website that would generate leads for real estate agents. And these guys did not have a real estate background, but they had this idea that they wanted to work on as part of their PhD. So they put together this idea and they started to then generate leads. Well, that actually grew into a business for them that created brokerages across the United States. And as they created these brokerages that were all across the United States, what they found was that they actually weren't that good at converting these leads. So they were very good at getting leads, but they weren't very good at then converting those leads and turning them into transactions. Well, as a result of that, they ended up selling their company to Realogy. Realogy is who owns Century 21. So they sold their company to Realogy for $167 million. So Realogy paid $167 million to get this Zip Realty. Now, they weren't buying Zip Realty because of the company. What they spent the $167 million on was to get the Zap system. So the back end system that Zip Realty used was Zap. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is this Zap system. And I'm going to show you why Realogy would go out and spend $167 million in order to purchase this company. Now, so with that in mind, we're going to jump into this and I'm going to take you through it. So there's two different ways that you can go about getting into the Zap system. So the first way that you can go about doing it is you can get to it by logging into 21 Online. So if you log into 21 Online and then up here in the search bar, you could just type in Zap and it'll bring it up to where you could then click on this to go to the Zap CRM. So that's one of the ways. The other thing you can do is if you click on the menu here and go to Productivity Hub, you can then scroll down through this Productivity Hub to the very bottom, which is all of these things are just in alphabetical order, and you'll see a Zap login. And if you click on that, then it will log you right into Zap. The other option that you have of how you can go about getting into it is you type in new.myzap.com. So new.myzap.com, and then you hit enter, and it will take you to the page that you could then log in. Which, oh, look, Jeanette's on here and we have her login. But so that's how you would do it, is then your username and password is going to be the exact same username and password that you would use for 21 Online. So anytime if you change your password in 21 Online, it's going to automatically change it in the Zap system as well. As long as you know your 21 Online username and password, you're going to be good to go in terms of logging into Zap as well. All right, So the first thing that I just want to point out to you is when you log in, it's going to land you here on this dashboard. And on the dashboard, you'll see if you have any requests, they're going to show up here. If you have new leads, they're going to show up here, meetings here, reminders and updates that you need to do are going to show up on this dashboard. So when you first log into this dashboard, if you're really using the system a lot, what will happen is it's going to bring it up for you to be able to go in and see what you need to be doing. Okay. So the idea of what we're going to show you today, though, is to how do I get it set up? How do I get started using the system? And how do I make it work so that I can make some money from this, right? So the first thing that we are going to want to do is when you are logged in, you're going to go over here and hover over where your name is, and should be a picture, but if not, that's okay as well. But your name should be here. You're going to click on it, and then you're going to notice the first thing here that shows as my website. Now, when you click on this my website, it's going to take you to a page where you can then modify what your website's going to look like. So every one of you, whether you know it or not, has a Zap website that is already set up and working for you. And so what you're going to want to do then is once we get onto this okay, so once you're onto this, what you're going to do is you will see here it's got this cover photo. Now, I don't know if we have any of the agents from St. George on right now, but if we do, then you probably wouldn't want to use this picture. Or if we have some from California, your picture is obviously going to be different than showing the Salt Lake City skyline. But if you want to change this, all you have to do is click right here in this change cover photo, and you can change it to whatever you want. The thing just to make sure of when you do that is that you have the right to be using whatever photo you're going to use. And so just make sure there's no copyright issues, those type of things. But you can change this photo to anything you want it to do. By default, the agents in Salt Lake, it's going to be or in Utah, I should say, is the Salt Lake skyline. So for St. George, you're probably going to want to change it. And then in California, like I say, I think it's got a picture of the inside of a house that you may or may not like. You'll see also that it's got your picture here, which I happen to be wearing the same suit today, not intentionally, but I noticed. So if you like that, great. If you want to change that picture out, then you can edit the photo, or you can click the plus sign right here to add a different photo to it. Now, you'll see here the next thing it has is this view my website. So I'm going to click on that, which is going to open up my website here so that you can see it. So now you can see here's that background picture that's going to show up. It's got my picture right here, and then here's where I can go do a search for properties for sale. And I'll say more about that. Well, in fact, actually, let's just do it now. One of the things that is great about the Zap website, I get asked a lot of times from people of, should I use this or should I use like Pro Agent? We have a lot of agents that use Pro Agent, or in California, we have a lot of agents that use Property Minder. And people will ask me, should I use this or should I use a Pro Agent or a Property Minder or some other type of a real estate site for searching? And here's how I like to answer it is, there are advantages and disadvantages to both, meaning there's advantages to using the Pro Agent site, there's advantages to using the Zap system, or maybe a Property Minder. And so you just kind of have to figure out what's most important to you. So I'll give you a few of the ideas of what I think may make some of the differences for you. But this is the first one of why I think the Zap system is great. Is most of the websites that you would pay for and sign up to use, what's going to happen when you do that is you are limited on where people can search to being the MLS that you're a part of. And so typically what that means, if you were to use a Property Minder or you were to use a Pro Agent website or some other service, you're limited on people can only search for properties in your market area, and market area is defined as wherever your MLS's coverage is. Well, on the Zap system though, because what they have done is gone out and implemented this in Century 21 systems across the country, what that means is you not only have access to the MLS you're a part of, but you have access to every MLS system that's out there that a Century 21 has signed up for. So now, if somebody's on my Zap site, and you saw when I first landed in here, I was searching in Arizona or somewhere, I could go in here and type in, Florida, and you'll see as I start to type in floor, it's got this New Mexico, Colorado, Montana, Arizona. I could search some neighborhoods, those type of things. So that's one of the things that's good about your website is, in some respect, you're actually competing with a Zillow with using your Zap site, meaning that somebody going to your site and doing searches is going to be able to pull up properties and find properties that are for sale all over the whole country. They're not just limited to your local MLS, which is what's going to happen with most websites. Now, the next thing on this, or actually, let me speak to what the downside of using the Zap system could be and why you might want to use a property minder or a pro agent. So if you are going to be marketing this website out to people, and you are going to go put it on your cards, your business cards, or a flyer, those type of things, the downside to this is somebody could go here and do searches on your website, and there's no requirement that they sign up. So when I said you're kind of competing with Zillow, you really are more in the Zillow sphere of things, meaning like on Zillow, I think you can go do searches all you want. You don't have to sign up. Well, that's the same with your Zap site, is there's no forced registration that is going to take place on your Zap site, versus on some of these other paid services that you can decide, hey, I don't want anybody to be able to do any searches, or well, they can do searches, but not look at any properties without first having signed up. Or you could say, I want them to do 3 before they have to sign up, or 5 or 7, like whatever you want to do, you could set that up on a different, but you don't have that ability on the Zap system. Okay. All right. So that's what it's going to look like. And if I scroll down here, you can see it's going to show my listings, shows the areas served, follow me, and it's got a Facebook link, share my page. Here's some recently sold homes. And if you scroll down, then it's got client testimonials, my experience, credentials, community involvement, properties. And I'm going to say more about all these things here in just a minute. So those are all things that you're going to want to be aware of. So now I'm going to come back over and click on this tab to go back to the Zap system. So this is my Zap website. This one is just the Zap system. And what I'm going to talk about first here is, okay, how do we get our website set up and looking the way we want it to do? Now, if you're real tech savvy and you want to really have this robust website and stuff, then again, this may not be the exact site that you want to use in order for that type of a thing, because it's going to be pretty basic in what it will do, but I'll show you what you can do with it. So first thing that to hit on in terms of that is, you'll notice down here, it's got this my website URL. So this is the link for your website. And you've got the ability, it shows right here, to be able to copy and paste that. So what you can do is, when you want to share that, you could just click on that copy. You could send it out as in an email, or drop it into a marketing piece, those type of things. But here's the downside to that, is you'll notice here that for my website, the URL is going to be homesforsale.century21.com/agent/russell.orchard. And then it just keeps on going. Well, you probably don't want to put that as a marketing piece somewhere. And so typically what I would recommend that you guys do, if you're going to use your Zap site, is if you go to like a GoDaddy or some type of a domain registrar, you can purchase a domain. And so let me show you what I have done. Is you'll notice here, this is the long thing for my website there. But if I come up here and I went and bought russorchard.com. So if somebody just goes to russorchard.com and hits enter, you'll notice what's going to happen here is it's okay. There we go. I was going to say all of a sudden there was a problem, but it's loaded exactly that site. So all I have done is I went to GoDaddy. I bought the domain name of russorchard.com. And then at GoDaddy, I have taken this link and I forwarded this russorchard.com to go to here. So you'll notice though, when you look at it, it looks like they went to russorchard.com, but in actuality, it's forwarded onto here. So that's one of the things I would recommend that you do is go purchase, and it doesn't have to be your name. You could be whatever you want, Orchard Homes or whatever. But go and buy that, and then you would forward it so that way when you're doing any marketing to it, you could just tell people go to russorchard.com rather than having to say go to the homes for sale, .com/agent, whatever it was. So so that's one of the first things but this is where you're going to get that link to do that. The other thing that you may or may not be aware of is you also have a mobile app. So here is your mobile app URL, and then you can copy this as well. Now, let me explain how that works, because this is really important. With your clients or your potential clients, your sphere of influence, whatever you want to call it, you want to get people to download your app. Now, when I say your app, it's going to look exactly like the Century 21 app. And in fact, the fear that I have because of that is that sometimes if you don't have people use this link, if somebody were just to go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and they did a search for Century 21, they're going to find an app. They could download that app and then start searching properties on it. And the problem with that is it's not tied to you. Instead, if what you do though is if you were to take this link here, so I were to get this link here, copy it, and then send it as like a text message or an email to people, and they are to click on that link, it's going to download that Century 21 app, but it's tied to you. So that anything they do on that app, any properties that they request more information on, anything that they're going to do that way is going to come directly to you. So just kind of know that that is one of the things that you want to do. Now, I'm going to share with you guys some secrets along the way that we have learned. And we had one agent who he's no longer with us, with our company anymore, but he was probably the very best at closing deals out of the Zap system. And I was talking to him one day and I said, okay, I know you don't want to share all your secrets probably, but can you give me just a few of the things that you have found that are working best for you in being able to get these deals to close? And the number one thing he said to me is that he has found if he could get people using his app to search properties, there was a pretty good chance he ended up doing a transaction with them. So just kind of keep that in mind, that our first objective is we want to get people into the Zap system. And I'll say more about that in a little bit and tell you how you're going to do it in just a little bit. But your first objective is going to be, I want to get people for you to put them in. So then your next objective is, I need to get them using my app, because if you can, and not everybody's going to, but if you can get them using your app, what you're going to find is that your chances of doing a transaction with them go up dramatically. So that's the mobile app. All right, so now we're going to come down here, and I'm getting warnings that are saying my internet connection is unstable. So hopefully I don't lose you guys all, but I'm plugged into the Ethernet, so I don't know. All right, so the next piece of this. So the first area here is it's got this content section. Under this content section has an about me, buy a home, sell a home, and custom pages. So this about me section right here is going to show up right here on your website. So whatever information that I put in this content about me area is going to then show up right here, okay? So you can decide what you want to put in there. You click on this pencil and you can type it in. Now, unfortunately, those of you that understand much about web development or anything, you'll notice this is just a text box. It's not an HTML box. So unfortunately, you can't put pictures and videos and things like that in here. It's just text only. But you could type in and put whatever text, and then you're just going to save that, okay? The next one is a buy a home page. Now, the buy a home page is going to show up right up here on your website at the top here, this buy a home page, okay? Under this buy a home section on here on your Zap site, you're going to decide, do you want it to be a custom page or not? So you turn it off, it'll go away. And do you want to have a display banner? And you can put whatever banner you want to have in there. And then you're going to have text that can be on the banner, and then your buy a home content module, which again, I wish these were HTML, but they're not. They're just text only. So you would put in a heading and some content in there. Now, here's what I would recommend that you do on this. NAR does a study every year of home buyers and sellers. And what they found is that the number one thing that people will go and search for in terms of like onto Google and doing a search and real estate, the number one thing that they will go and do a search for is homes for sale. So they want to go see houses. But the second most common search thing that takes place, that what the NAR found, the second thing they search for most often. So first is just actual houses. The second thing that they're going to search for most is going to be information about the home buying process. So what do you think would be good to put on this page under the buy a home content section? So either throw it in the chat box or unmute. Let me know what you think. What would be good information to put in here? I probably should have checked to make sure you guys could actually hear me, because maybe I'm standing here and been talking for 23 minutes for nothing.
We can hear you. I'm just
okay, good.
Totally guessing. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to sound stupid.
Okay, good. So Rebecca threw it in the chat box and she's right on. Information about the process of buying a home. Since that's the number 2 most searched thing that a buyer is going to look for, you want to have on your website information about the process. Yeah, so Kyle, buying a home versus renting, that's great. But yeah, just putting through, here's kind of what the process is. So that's what I would recommend that you want to have on this page. Now, the sell a home page. The sell a home page probably would be, what are the steps that are involved in selling a home, right? I mean, we would just make sense that we would put the same thing on there. And then there's custom pages that you can create other custom pages as well. So if you had other pages that you want to do, you know, I don't know, information about mortgages or home inspections or whatever. And in fact, to some extent, might be a good idea to have some of that stuff there, that you could train your SOI that if they will just go and do searches for that kind of stuff there, that what they will find is the information that they need, and you get them trained to just go to your website. All right. So that's this content section here. And it's got these pages that are here, which again, the About Me section shows up right here. The other pages are going to show up across the top up here. All right. Next, the next thing down here is this areas served. Now, what you want to do on this areas served is on your website. So I'm going to keep bouncing back and forth. I apologize if it's confusing. But on this areas served, you're going to notice here, this is the order that it's going in. Well, the order that shows up is based on what you've got in here. So you can have up to 21 cities that you're going to have in there for areas served. And in fact, you could change the heading and call it, you know, local cities, or I mean, whatever you want to call it. I just left it as areas served. But you would create these areas served. And then down here, you're going to put in the areas that you want to have that you serve, and you can have up to 21. Now, what I would recommend that you do, the reason why this is important, okay, is this. Now, if somebody goes on to Century 21's website and they're doing searches for properties, the website will recommend agents to them. Well, part of how the system and Century 21's website is going to do that, to recommend people, is going to be based upon the cities that you serve here. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have the cities that you want to serve. So for example, I've got Ivins, Utah in here. Well, that's down by St. George. So that's what, 4 hours away from where I'm at. Do I really want to have that as an area served? Probably not. So what I would do is just click this X and it'll get rid of Ivins out of there. Well, let's say instead though that I do think, well, yeah, but I do maybe want to have St. George. What you're going to do is you're going to click here to add a city. Now, for whatever reason, and I don't know why it is, it's a little confusing because people will click in here and they feel like, oh, it's not working. If you're looking at that, it kind of just seems like I clicked there, but it didn't create a box for me to type in or anything. But if you just start to type in, well, let's just say I'll put in Washington, Utah. So there's Washington, Utah. So as you start to type, it will then bring it up. I can select Washington, Utah, and it's dropped it now into my list here. So just know that whatever you can have up to 21, you want to have the cities that you would be willing to work in, and you're just going to click here to add them. To delete them, you're going to click here to reorder them. So if I just said, hey, I want East Side to show up before Bountiful, then I could drag and drop it there. And then what'll happen is that I haven't refreshed the page, but it'll reorder the way they show up here on your website as well. All right, so that's it on the areas served, which was this section here, right here, the areas served. Okay, next then is the my sold homes. So you'll notice I changed the name to say my recently sold homes, and then you can turn that on or off. So you can have it to where it will display here or it won't display there, whatever you want it to do. Oh, sorry, I take that back. Let me go back here. That was the my listings. Wait a minute, when I first did this, it had the my sold homes. What happened? When I first scrolled through it showing you guys, it had the my sold homes on there. Let me try one thing here. I wonder if that's something to do with me forwarding it. We may have found a bug. We did. Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to call them and ask them on that. So, because it does have it here, but for whatever reason, that my sold homes is not showing up there. So, okay, well, we'll show you up from here then. So, and I'll call and find out. It may be that I need to update that link from back here on GoDaddy, and so I'm going to try that first after our class. I'll change updating this link, the forwarding of it, because that could be what the issue is, but I'll double check that. All right, so the my recently sold homes I've thrown in here, and that, like I said, you can decide, do you want to have it show up or not show up. Let me get back down there. Now let me explain how this works, because sometimes agents get a little confused on this, meaning, and I'm not sure who all we have on here. I haven't paid that close of attention to who we have on, but if you joined us from another company, so if you came to Century 21 Everest from another company first, what you're going to find is that if you wanted it to display your my recently sold homes, it actually won't show any homes, because unfortunately where it gets that feed is not from the MLS, it's getting it from Century 21 system. And so if you came to us from another company, until you get a few homes sold, nothing is going to show up there. So I typically recommend in that scenario that you would just turn that off and not display the my recently sold homes until you have gotten a few homes sold. Once you have done that, then I would say go turn it on so it'll show up as the my recently sold homes. And then your listings, like I say, will show up there automatically. Okay, so that's the my recently sold homes section, which is right here. And then as we scroll down, the next thing is this agent insights. So under agent insights, this one again is very important, and here's why. Is, remember I said that on Century 21's website, as consumers are out there looking, it will occasionally recommend an agent. And the way that it's going to decide that is first based on the areas served that you have put in there. So you want to make sure you're doing that. The second way that it's going to decide is it's doing it based upon how active you are on the system. And when I say that, what I'm referring to is these agent insights. So there's two different types of insights here. So let me go back to the website and scroll down and I'll show you. So on my site down here, I've got properties I've toured, which that is going to be the property insights that we are showing right here. So what you want to do is you want to go in, and I would recommend that you're doing it a couple of times a week. If you're now, let me preface this by saying, if you're wanting the system to kind of recommend you as an agent, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are doing property insights is how it's going to decide who to recommend. So first, it's looking at the cities that you're serving, and then it's going to look at how active are you in doing property insights and local insights. And if you're doing them, you're more likely to get recommended than somebody who is not doing them. And so what you want to do is you would just see on here this property insights. And as I scroll through here, well, in fact, actually, let me go back over to here to to this properties I've toured. As I go through here, this one looks like it's still for sale. This one shows that it's contingent. This one's off market. So this one in Syracuse here, I would want to come back to here, find this one in Syracuse and delete it because it's not active anymore. So I would want, and this is why I'm saying it's probably good to be doing this periodically. And you can see it's got these. So I'll just delete a different one here as well. But then from here is where I would add them. So there's two different ways you can go about adding the property insights. One is right here where we're taking a look at right now. The other is if you have the Zap app downloaded on your phone, which we'll come back to that and I'll talk about the Zap app in a little bit. But if you have that on your phone, you could do it from there as well. So if I wanted to add a property insight, I'm just going to click add property insight. And then from here, I could do it by just starting to type an address. And grab this property here. So it's pulled it up. There it is. From here now, I could just type in some insights. Well, let's see. You know, just whatever you want to type in. I'm not going to put a whole bunch of things in there, but you would just type in whatever you wanted to. I can grab the tags, good, you know, good condition, open layout, great views, lots of light, near shops, you know, whatever tags, and then I'm going to hit publish. And now it has published that onto my website. So that's how you're going to do property insights. And as I said, the ideal way the system recommends you do it is you should do that a couple of times a week. The other thing on here then is local insights. So I'm not sure, let me refresh here. I'm not sure why it keeps giving us those little blue dots there. All right, here we go. So local insights. So the local insights then on your website are going to show up just below the properties that I've toured. Right there is going to show these local insights. And again, as I said, part of how the system decides which agents they're going to recommend. Now, I don't want to, what I don't want to do is give the impression of like, if you go and do this, you're going to get 5 leads a week from the Century 21 system. Like I don't know how often you're going to get it, but I would say it's going to be not a ton that it's going to happen, but you're more likely to get it to happen, I guess I would say, if you have done this. So you want to create these local insights for, if I click back up here on areas served, for all of these cities. So that's how you want to approach it. I'm going to go back down to the agent insights. So under local insights, I want to have insights created for every one of those cities that I have in there. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to do add local insights. Okay. Now, this piece though, I will tell you, this is how you could actually get some good exposure on Google, is if you do this. If you go and create these local insights and you do it by a city or a zip code, you're now going to be competing with a Zillow, Trulia, like all the big players. And you're probably not going to organically just show up in somebody's search. But if instead you were to go in here and do a search by some neighborhoods, so let me see if mine will show up here. Well, we'll just use this one here. But you'll notice like Ivory Crossings in South Jordan, which if I grabbed Ivory Crossings there and then I give it a catchy headline or whatever, I'm just going to say Ivory Crossing neighborhood. And then from here, I would want to put in some comments about the neighborhood, you know, community pool, trying to think of what else. Community clubhouse, I mean, whatever, just put in information about it. And then some tags down here. So I would just put Ivory Homes, Ivory Crossing. So these tags are just going to be kind of more like keywords and things. So now if somebody was doing a search and they were doing a search to try to come up with some information about Ivory Crossing, that neighborhood, I got a lot better chance of showing up if they did a search that way for searching for a neighborhood. Like I say, if I put in there just South Jordan, more than likely somebody goes in and types in South Jordan homes for sale, and it's going to be Zillow showing up. Now, like I say, this is just ideas that are going to try to help you get a little bit more exposure. Again, I would rather downplay it. I'm downplaying it because what I don't want is people calling me, hey, I set all that up and I haven't gotten a lead and it's been a week. Like, I'm not saying you're going to get stuff weekly and maybe not even monthly, but this is just kind of think of it as some bonus or some extra ways that you could get some leads. You're not, probably just the way to say it, you're not going to be able to rely on your real estate career is not going to be able to rely on doing just what we're talking about today. And unless you only need to sell 1 or 2 houses a year, then maybe. But just kind of know that that's what we want to do, is we want to have those agent insights down here as well, so that it'll make my site a little more searchable. And now here's where you can see this. Now, let me point something else out to you that I would recommend. On this, if somebody does do a search and it were to bring up these local insights, notice in here, it doesn't have any of my information. So the other thing that I recommend that you do down here, so I'm going to do this view details here, is that I would recommend on here is, something about, for more information on Ivory Crossing, call Russ at 801-556-4441, something like that. Maybe put in my email address or whatever. Now, when I save it, if that comes up, refresh it there. Now you can see it's got my information in there, and probably would want to put in your last name or whatever too. But I just usually recommend having some of that in there, because again, if somebody was on Century 21 site and they happen to do a search for Ivory Crossings or something, and it brings up those local insights about it, I want my contact information in there so that hopefully I'm the only one that has that, and they're more likely to call me about it. All right, next. After the agent insights, the next thing down is this SEO playbook. So I can either scroll down to get there, or any of these up at the top. If I wanted to go back to content, areas served, my sold homes, any of that, I can just click there and it'll take me to that. Now, let me explain the SEO playbook. So again, we've been talking about how to make your site more searchable. And when they first rolled out the Zap system, I remember, which, let me pause real quick. I apologize. Like, there's not a whole lot of interaction today in this class, so I apologize. Feel free to interact if you want, or ask questions. Please do ask questions if you have them. But I know today's more of a, I'm firing information at you. So if you need me to slow down or have questions, just stop me. But when they first rolled this out, they had these trainers from Century 21 come to Salt Lake, and they hyped this thing so big. And so us as a company hyped it to our agents of like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever, and you're going to get all these leads, and everybody showed up. And when they did the training for us, the system wasn't actually even really ready to be released, and it was just a huge flop. Well, in the process of that, though, they fine-tuned it, made it better, and actually I really am a big proponent of Zap now. Well, we've had since the trainer go out to California offices and to our Utah offices, and I have been with her when she's been in both in California and Utah to do this. And she would stand up, and to the agent, she would say, okay, this section is how you're going to create for your website to be searchable on Google. And she even made it sound like this is how you're going to compete with Zillow. Well, here's the problem. We're not big enough to compete with Zillow. Sorry, like, it's just that they do so much and have so much money that it's hard for us to compete. And because of how much they do, they're coming up typically at the top of this organic search. But here's what you need to know. Again, back tied to the, more of a neighborhood type of a concept, the way you're going to be more searchable is if you'll do these things. So this SEO playbook is all about, and just in case anybody doesn't know, SEO stands for search engine optimization. What you're going to do is it's got these ideas for you. So the first one we've already talked about. If you have a domain name, have it forward visitors to your Zap site. So that's where I was saying, go to a GoDaddy, purchase a domain for yourself. I did russorchard.com. You can do whatever you want to. and forward it. So that's the first thing. And then you can see I checked it off. Then it has link building. So if I click on this one, now it's going to say, okay, go to Google and claim your Google My Business. So go there and create a business page basically on Google. Create a Yelp profile. And then all of these, it has a learn more that if you click on it, it'll tell you how to do it. So claim your business on Bing, on Facebook, create a Foursquare places. You know, it's got all these ideas of, you know, link your Twitter, link your Yelp, link your YouTube, link Pinterest, get all of those things linked. All of those links are going to make your site more searchable. Then content, you know, write some information rich local insights weekly for the cities that you're in. Write property insights, about homes you've toured a few times each week. Periodically ask your contacts to give you ratings, which we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But so it's giving you these ideas of how to get your site to be more searchable. Now, again, I would rather downplay this for you than make it sound like, oh, you're going to be able to get all these leads, which when Century 21 came and taught it, they made it sound that way. But this is just things that are going to give you a better chance of getting them. And I guess maybe to say it, this is probably the way to say it. If you don't do any of this stuff, you're not going to get any leads. So I'll just put it that way so that you just know. I'm not saying you're going to get a ton if you do it, but if you don't do those things, you're not going to get any from people just doing searches online. Okay. All right. Next, resources. So this is going to show up on your website on the right-hand side here, right here. So you'll see these resources there. So what you can do is you can create and have links to other sources there. Now, I'm not a big proponent of that because for me, if I get somebody onto my website, what I don't want to do is give them a link to leave. It's almost like you're giving an invitation to don't be on my website anymore. So I'm not a big proponent of using this, but there probably are times that it would make sense. So, and like I said, I almost think I would rather have it on my pages, those custom pages that we talked about up here at the top, under one of these custom pages, than to have it in the resources, but you decide. So you could just put in here whatever the name is, a link to another website, and then whatever the category is that you want to have put in there. So you can see I've got a friend that used to be a neighbor that owns Triton Plumbing, and so I just threw a link into his website there, and you can decide if you want to add things. You could add your lender, you know, escrow, title, inspection, and other things. So typically though, for me, what I would recommend, if you're going to do that, and I haven't done this with Triton Plumbing, but ultimately you almost want to go say, hey, do you want to pay to advertise on my website and get them to pay you some money to be on there? Then I'm great with putting a link on there, is if I'm getting paid for it. But so for me, for the most part, I'm kind of more of a, I would probably turn it off if it were me and would rather use the custom pages. But if you want to have the links on there to have people, that's great. All right, next then. The next thing is reviews. And again, you can either scroll down or you just click on the link up here and it'll take you down there. Now, you'll notice here you've got two different options. Display testimonials that are managed in Zap or display all reviews received. Now, if I go back to my website up here at the top, you'll see that's got this satisfaction rating. It's showing 5 out of 5. Well, that's where this is going to come from, is based on these testimonials. Now, let me explain how this works, because there's two ways that they come in, as you can see. The first one is through Real Satisfied. So anytime you have a closing on a property, the company is going to send to them a survey where it's going to ask the client to fill out a survey on how your service was. And however many stars and things they rate you with is then going to tie over into here. The other way you can do it is you can request people in your Zap system to give you reviews. Now, here's what I recommend to do. Everybody that you put into here, if I were you, I would ask them to do a review on you so you can build a bunch of reviews. I know of an agent who does a lot of stuff with Zillow, in fact, I think he's spending $100,000 a year, gives Zillow $100,000 a year, crazy amount of money. But part of what he told me though of his success in that is, one is the amount of money he gives them, but two is the 5-star reviews that he gets. So making sure that you have good reviews, because people are going to want to do searches. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But even if you have not done a transaction with people, it's somebody from a previous business or something. One of the things that I would recommend that you do is send them a review, ask them to do a review on you based upon past business experience you've done that's totally nothing to do with even real estate, but just ask them to review you as to how you did. The other thing that you would do, you pick up somebody that you go out and just show them properties. At the end of showing them properties, I would say, hey, I'm going to send you a request on as an email for you to fill out a review of how I've done. So that's a way to start getting some reviews before you even get closings that have taken place yet. All right. So that's the reviews section. And then next is going to be this professional information. And it's got a section for my experience. And then you would just click it in here. And again, type in the text box, your credentials and memberships, add new, type it in there. And community involvement, you can see I just put a bunch of gibberish in there. But you would just add new and then put all of that stuff in there. And then down here is where we've got website tracking and Facebook pixel. So if you understand what that says, you'll know what to do. If you don't understand what that says, I would say probably don't worry about it then. But basically what it is it's a way for you to track using the Google Analytics on your website and Facebook for that. So, but if that doesn't make sense to you, I would just say don't worry about it. If you totally understand it, you know what to do with it then. All right. So that's how we're going to get our website set up. So that's how we're going to get this to look like this. Now, remember, I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. Remember that I said that it's a pretty basic website, meaning it's not like on here I can go, oh, I want to move the recently sold homes up to here and I want to drop my listings down there and I want to move like you don't have that flexibility, unfortunately, but you can see it's good enough that if I actually had some experience and credentials and stuff in here, you can see it's got some pretty good information on there that you could have people take a look at. All right, so that's the setup basically of the website. The other things that are on here, if I go up here and click on my name again, is you can see there's a blog. So you could go in and do blog. There's account settings, which I'm just going to kind of briefly go through this with you. You don't really need to do a whole lot with it. If you want to link your Gmail to it where you could actually get your email messages in here, you can do that. Your MLS membership. But again, I wouldn't really worry too much about tying it to on that because it doesn't do a whole lot. This lead zip codes is just basically going to be all of Utah, and same thing with service markets ends up being basically all of Utah. Lead and notification settings. So again, just going back over, clicking on your name and going to lead and notification settings. This is the phone number that's going to be in there, the email address, and then lead routing. So let me explain this one to you. If you had a different system that you were using, like a Pro Agent or something like that, and you wanted the leads to end up in Zap, you can copy this email address basically and give it to the other system and basically say, when a lead comes in, I want it to go to here, and then it would drop the lead into your Zap system from those other places is what that would be for. This manual lead welcome email is when you add somebody in, this is the email message that's going to go out to them. So if you want to customize it, you can change that. You can have it automatically send a welcome email to new and reassigned leads. If you're part of a team, you can have a team thing set up. But here's the most important thing I wanted to show you on this is the notification settings. So this one's where you're going to decide essentially how many emails do you want to get or text messages from the system. So when somebody signs up as a new lead, do you want to be notified about it? I would say you do. If a lead is reassigned, which is probably not going to happen, so don't worry about that. But essentially, it would be me going in and reassigning it, which I have never once done and I've worked with this system for probably 10 years. And I don't think I've ever once gone in and just reassigned somebody's leads. Now, the only time I guess that would happen is if you had somebody in there and they called and said they didn't want to work with you. And I called you up and said, hey, this person called and said they don't want to work with you. And you said, yeah, I don't want to work with them either. Okay, great. Do you want us to reassign it to somebody? Yeah. So that we could, that's how it would work. But you don't have to worry about that really ever happening. Okay, if somebody requests information, obviously you would want to be notified or request a showing or a listing. Now, this one is really important. So let me explain it to you. So I'm going to tie together what I told you earlier. Remember earlier that I said there were pluses and minuses to this system, and one of the advantages to this system is somebody could go and search outside of your market area? Well, this notification here is for it to notify you if somebody is going to do a search outside of your market area. So let me show you what I mean. So let's say I went to this Florence, Arizona here, and I click search. You'll notice it brought up properties that are for sale in Florence, Arizona now. So I can go through and look at all of these properties in Arizona. Well, if I decided I wanted information on this property and I click on it and I wanted to request a showing, so I go to request a showing, what's going to happen is, well, actually, let me even, before I say that, you're not licensed in Arizona. So you don't have the right or the ability really to go and give somebody information about a home for sale in Arizona because you're not licensed in Arizona. So as a result of that, the system then, when you click on this, you'll notice here that up here, this logo is Century 21 Arizona Foothills. Well, before it was showing Century 21 Everest, it was showing our company. Well, now it's showing this Arizona company. Well, the idea of that is we're not licensed in Arizona, so of course it's got to show this Arizona company's information. Now, if I was the consumer though, and I request information on this property, that request is going to go to Century 21 Arizona Foothills. Now, to some extent, you might be sitting there going, well, then I don't want to use this website, because if somebody goes and does a search outside of Utah, then it's going to send the information to them. Now, let me ask you a question though. If you were using one of the other websites, let's say a Property Minder website, you're on Property Minder, and somebody goes, one of your clients or SOI goes onto your website and tries to do a search for Arizona, what's going to happen? Nothing. They're not going to, there, no properties are going to be there. So now, as a result of that, what's your SOI or client going to do? They're going to go search a different website. You're not even going to know that it happened. See, that's the thing. So sometimes agents will look at this and go, well, that's not fair that it's going to send this information over here to Arizona Foothills. Well, guess what happens if we didn't have those properties on there? What would happen is the client would go do that and you wouldn't even know until after they had already been in contact with an agent. So here's the key thing for you to understand, and this is where this is the good news. If they start to search outside of your market area, you're going to get notified. One of your people, your contacts, is searching outside of your market area. When you get that notification, immediately drop what you're doing and get on the phone with them to call them. And what you want to do is call them before they go request a showing off of this property. Because if you contact them first and say, hey, noticed you were searching for properties in Florence, Arizona, and they say, oh yeah, we've got a job transfer, but, or we're not sure, we're just thinking about it, whatever. At that point, you can say, well, hey, let me tell you what, if you go searching on there, you're probably going to start getting contacted from other agents, which I don't want you to do. So let me get you in contact with an agent down in Arizona that could take care of you. Now I'm able to send it as an outgoing referral and still get paid off of this person. And here's the bigger piece. I actually now understand that they're probably going to be selling their house to move to Arizona, so that hopefully because here's what sometimes happens. So let me stop. What sometimes happens, they'll go request a showing here. This agent contacts them. They say, yeah, we may be getting a job transfer down there. And the agent goes, oh, have you got an agent you're working with in Salt Lake? And they say, well, kind of. All right, well, hey, I've got one that I work really closely with. Let me refer him to you. Now you totally could potentially get cut out of the deal, unless you have stayed in contact enough that they say, no, I've got an agent. But so kind of think of it as you're trying to circumvent losing a listing, but also as a way to get a referral fee by referring them somewhere else. So that happens by making sure this is turned on. The next of these is a daily activity email. This will send you an email every day letting you know who is active on your site, which I think is a good thing. But sometimes some agents are like, I get so many emails from Zap, I get sick of it. Well, then turn it off if you don't want to see it. Same thing at a marketing email stats report here as well. And then this Pro Score one, I don't think you guys have. I think that one's just for me as an admin. It lets me know weekly who is using the system and who the top users are. All right, so that was under this lead notifications and settings section. And so just kind of keep in mind that that's all of this stuff is about getting it set up. You'll notice this company billing and payments, which really at this point, there is nothing there to do. I mean, you could add a credit card to there, but for right now, there's really nothing to be charging you for. So there's no cost to doing this. My guess is they put that in there because down the road, they'll probably add some enhancements that they would then say, oh, if you want to do that, then you got to pay for it. So I'll give you an example of like sometimes on Business Builder, which is another one system that's in 21 Online, on Business Builder, you could go in and create flyers and get them printed by Express Docs. Well, you have to pay for that. That's kind of what I think this down the road will be for is they're going to create some stuff. Well, and actually they already do have, it looks like over here now for in the Zap store. So if you did anything in the Zap store, you know, that's where your credit card would come from. So if you wanted to tie some of these other things to your account, I guess. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because there's not many people that do it. So, all right. So, but I just wanted you to know, even though this says company billing and payments, there's no charge. It's a broker provided. Everything's the company's paid for. You don't have to on that. All right, so now I'm going to go well, back to the dashboard, but ultimately the next thing where I'm going to go is we're going to talk about, okay, now that I've got my system set up, my website is set up that people can start searching it, how do I get people in there? So the way you're going to get people added into the system is you're going to click on this add. Now you'll notice as I click on add, the options that I have is I can add a contact and I can do it individually or an import, which I'll come back to. I could add a property insight or a local insight. I could schedule meetings in here, put when I have them. I can add a reminder for myself to call somebody. I can get some links and then record activities. So we're going to just talk about the adding contacts. So because again, the idea of today is more the basics of helping you get the system set up and using it. So there's 3 different ways you can go about adding contacts. The first way is I can add an individual contact. So I just would, again, I click on add right here. And then once I've clicked on add, go to new contact, individual contact. It's going to pull it up and I can put in their first name, last name, email address, phone number, addresses, lead information, birthdays, anniversaries, notes, professional information, tie it to their social media profiles, stuff like that in here if I want to as well. So that's the first way you can put people in. The second way you can do it is I can do new import contacts. And then from here, and so I guess there's technically 4 ways that I can go about doing this, but I can upload a CSV file. So if you have a spreadsheet that has all of your contacts on it and saved as a CSV, then what I can do is I could come in here and click upload file, and it'll bring in that file then, and then you can tell it which columns are which. And if you want to download a sample, when you would just click on it here, it'll download it, and then you could open it up and put the people in there. So that's the other way where you could mass import people. Then you could also import your Google contacts. So if you have your contacts in Google, from here, you can click on this import Google contacts. It's going to then ask for your permission to connect it to your Google account. And then from there, you could grab all your contacts and put them in. So those are the 3 main ways you can do it. I'm going to stop the share for a second here because I'm going to show you the 4th way that you can do it. So the other way you can do it, and let me see, I first have to come and spotlight myself as the co-host here. Oh, it's not letting me spotlight. What's up with that? All right. Well, it should be showing this screen anyway with me talking. So on your phone, if you go to either the Google Play Store or the App Store, and you were to go in and type in Zap to get the Zap app, it's going to bring it up, and the one you're looking for is going to look like this. So that's what the app is going to look like. Now, when you open the app and you are logged into the app, you're going to put in your password and everything in there. Let me get logged in on mine here. Okay, so once logged in, and hopefully you can see this well enough, but on the iPhone, up here at the top, there's a little plus sign right there that you're going to click on that plus sign, and then it gives you these options right here. And you'll notice one of them is import contacts. So if I hit import contacts, it's then going to bring them up to where I can select them to put them in. If you're using a Droid, what you want to do is first throw your phone against the wall, make sure it breaks, and then you can go buy an iPhone and do it the way I just taught you. All right, just kidding. I don't see Kyle laughing there, so it must not have been very funny. But all right, the way you're going to do it on the
I hate iPhones.
what's that?
Hate iPhones.
That's why you weren't laughing.
Mhm.
So on the Droid, which this is not, but on the Droid, instead, the first thing you have to do is down at the bottom, you'll see contacts. So you have to hit the button for contacts on the Droid. And then once you get to contacts on the bottom right over here, which I don't have it, but you'll have a plus sign and then do import contacts, and you can import your contacts that way into the system as well. All right, so those are the ways you can get your contacts added into the system. Okay, so is the 4 different ways was through here, add individual, import, and then import them through a CSV or your Google account, or on your phone, you can go pull them off of your phone that way. All right, now that they're in here, so I'm going to show you guys a few little tricks and things, and where the value of this comes from to me. Okay, so what I've done now is, I apologize, I didn't tell you what I did, is I just clicked on contacts on the left-hand side here, and that's loaded my contacts. Now, the default way that it's going to sort your contacts, it always sorts them by default by the Zap score. So you'll notice here, it's the first person in my list here is Jay Despain, and it shows that his Zap score is very high. So remember I said to you that Century 21 essentially went and bought this for $167 million, and that the reason they did it was for the back-end system. This is the reason they actually went and bought it. Pretty much everything else we've talked about, you can get from just about any other system that's out there. But what this one does that is different, and why they spent the money on this, is because it's going to keep track of what your people are doing, and then it's going to rate them for you. So it's going to rate all of your contacts. So let me make sure I explain this so that you understand it. So you can see I've got 129 filtered contacts in here. Of those 129 contacts, it is comparing them to each other. So it's not comparing my contacts to Kyle's. It's not comparing my contacts to the rest of Century 21. It's comparing, of the 129 people I have listed in the system, of those 129 people, which ones are the best is basically what it is showing me. And so when you look at the 129 that I have in here, Jay Despain is rated as very high. Well, now if I hover over that, you will see what it's showing here is it shows that he viewed 4 home details pages last week. He logged onto my website 1 time last week and logged onto my website 5 times 4 or more weeks ago. He viewed 3 home detail pages 4 or more weeks ago and logged onto my website 1 time 3 weeks ago. So what you'll notice, I'm going to pull up another agent. I haven't asked him for permission, but I don't think he'll care. So I'll ask him after today. The one that I used to always talk about that's left the company had given me permission, but I'll show you somebody else who I think is getting some pretty good usage on his website and what it looks like. But you can see that's where Jay's at. Now, if I come down here to Brandon, you'll notice he logged onto my website 1 time last week, viewed 1 home details page last week, and logged on to the website 2 times 4 or more weeks ago, and viewed 1 home details page 4 or more weeks ago. Then it drops down to my wife here that shows she logged onto my website 1 time 4 or more weeks ago. So you can see on mine, it's dropped off a lot. Well, part of that, what you'll also notice as I come down here is a lot of them are ranked as none. And I'll show you part of why that is here in just a minute. But part of the challenge is most of these people are doing nothing on my website, but I'm also not trying to do anything. I'm not contacting them. I'm not doing anything to stay in touch. But here's the cool thing. So Jay here is a friend of mine, and in the SOI class, if you've taken the SOI class, you've heard me talk about Jay. You're not going to remember it, and when you do take the class, I will talk about Jay as well. But he is a friend of mine that that years ago had told me if he was ever buying or selling, he wouldn't use me. Because he just said, I just feel like using friends is not a good thing. And I said, okay. Well, in the SOI class, I bring that story up, and I mentioned it to him one day, and he told me, I would totally use you. What are you talking about? I don't know why you would say that. I never told you I wouldn't use you. So I don't know what's changed, but apparently he'll use me now. Well, here's the interesting thing. I put him into this system, and when I put him into the system, and I'll show you what I did, but I have done nothing else with him. Zero. I have not talked to him about real estate. I'm never the one that has brought it up. He recently started bringing it up to me, but guess what? I already knew he was thinking about it because he started showing up in my Zap site. Even now, don't leave this class thinking, hey, Russ said I don't have to do any prospecting and the system's just going to do it for me. To some extent it will, but here's the thing. With Jay, I ran into him. We have a walking trail around our neighborhood. I ran into him probably a month, maybe 2 months ago now even. And he mentioned to me, hey, I'm starting to think about retirement, probably going to be a few years off, but I've been checking out your website and looking at properties. Like, what that's telling me is it's going to happen sooner than later. And especially when I click on this and I notice and see that he's searching properties, I mean, just last week looked at 4 houses on my website. That tells me he's probably going to be doing something real estate related. Well, what I did is I just put him into the system, and the system's kind of done its job, and it's alerting me, hey, he's out there searching. Now, let me tell you about Brandon. Brandon is somebody that I helped buy a house. I don't know how many years ago it's been, probably over 5 years ago or more. And I just put him into the system as well, doing the exact same thing. I have not called or talked to him, but the system is letting me know. Last week, he went on and looked at one property. Now, here's what I know. From when he bought that property 5 years ago, he probably has $100,000 of equity, at least, I'll bet, in that property since then. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if I were to get a call from him, which if I were you guys, I should be calling him, but I'm not trying to generate deals. If he calls me, great. But what would happen is I would not be surprised if he called me and say, hey, Russ, decided I want to sell my property and either buy another one, or I'm taking my money and running or whatever. But would not be surprised at all. And looking at the prices, I can tell, that's probably what the ballpark of what his house is worth, maybe a little bit more than that, just knowing what I know. So as you can see, going through this, that's one of the cool things is this Zap score. So, okay, I'm going to click on Jay here, and we're going to go look at Jay's information and tell you about how you're going to use this. So once you have a contact in here, so I clicked on Jay's name, pulled up his contact information. From here, I could log a call. So if I had called him, I can click on that and I can type in a note of, what number did I call? Did I reach him? Yes or no? And what did we talk about? Okay. I could send an email right from here, or I could add a reminder. So I could click on add a reminder and go through and put in a reminder to call him next month or however I want to do it. Okay. So that's where I just click add reminder, type in what it is, the date that I want it. I could have it set up as repeating, and it's tied to him. Okay. Now, the next thing down here is this basic info. So you'll see here that it's got these tags. So you'll notice that it's an agent lead. That just means I entered him into the system. It didn't come by him signing up on my site. I put him in there. He has set up he's receiving the watched homes alerts, which I'll say more about. He's part of a bulk email. And then I created these tags that he's a neighbor, he's part of my SOI, and he's tall. And whatever. I just made stuff up. So you could go in here and create tags, whatever you want. So I could come in here and go, yeah, and he's ugly too. So I'm going to add that as a tag. And so now I could do a search for all the people in my system if I wanted that had a tag of ugly or tall or whatever, or neighbor. So just know you can create as many tags. Think of tags as putting them into groups. So one of the things you could do is I might want to put him in here as a seller or potential seller. So maybe I call it potential seller. If I knew he was wanting to move to California, I could put that in there. So the idea of that being, let's say that I knew he wanted to buy in Sandy. I could put Sandy in there. And then when I get a listing in Sandy, I could go into my system and do a, hey, I want to search for everybody that wanted to buy in Sandy that, you know, that I had created a tag for, and go then do an email to them of, hey, this property is going to be coming on the market. So you'll notice you can create as many of those as you want and add as many people to those tags as well. And when I clicked on it here, you'll notice it had some suggested ones. So needs pre-approval, cash pre-approved within 6 months, greater than 6 months. I mean, these are all the recommended tags that they have in the system. So you could just select one of those as well. So that's how you're going to put them into groups. The rest of this is all their contact information. Here's where I could add the reminder again. So I could do it up here or right here. Any of this stuff that I wanted to change, I just click on it and I could put in his current address if, you know, I wanted to there, his birthday, his anniversary, the job titles, anything that way. Just click on the pencil there to get that. All right, as I continue to scroll down here, now we get to the Zap score. So remember on the first page we had a Zap score, but this one's going to give me a little more detail. And this one's going to show me by this color code. I can look and see 29% of his activity is logging on to the website. 71% is viewing home detail pages. I mean, like I say, he's not doing a whole lot. There's going to be better ones I hopefully can show you here. But, and then in the search insights, what you'll notice is here's the areas that he's searching at home. So he's looked at Murray, Taylorsville, and West Jordan. And you can see 50%'s been West Jordan. That's because that, or excuse me, Taylorsville. That's because that's where his house is. So I know he's looking at the houses in his neighborhood, but he's looked at some in West Jordan and some in Murray. And you can see the details there, along with, I skipped over it, the profiles. So on average, he's looking at homes that are 507,000, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 3,400 square feet. Well, again, that basically is the profile of his house. So I know he's looking at it from the standpoint of how much could I sell my house for. And then down here, if I wanted to look at the homes that he's recently viewed, I can click on this and boom, it'll pull those up so that I can see what homes he is taking a look at there, okay? All right, campaigns here. So again, I could add a reminder from here. So now you've seen 3 different ways I could add a reminder to him. Listing activity, which, you know, his home's not listed, so there's nothing in there. This is the key piece. If you don't remember anything else I've talked about today, make sure you're paying attention now. Put the TV on pause. If you're watching, you know, Price is Right or something while we're doing this, pause the TV and make sure you're paying attention, because this is going to be crucial. All right. Did you just pause it, Kyle? All right. So here's what you want to do. So you'll notice it has home value updates. What you want to do now, and this is what I did for Jay, is in one of these classes, I was just teaching a class when I added him. I actually was not doing it to try to get business from him. I just was teaching the class, and I got to this section and I said, okay, here's how I would add a home value update for Jay. And I clicked add home value update, and then I typed in his address right here, the 6443. So if I just started to type that in, 43, and then you can see that it would, oops. Oh, which this is, I'm glad this did that. Sometimes you will put in the South, sometimes you don't. So let me try it without. Yeah, so this one, his was without, and then I would just hit select there and then save, which I'm not going to do because he's already there. But you notice if he owned investment properties, I could go and add a home value update for his investment properties in here as well. Now, let me explain how this works, what it does. To me, this is the best thing you can do for your sphere of influence, bar none. The very best thing you could do is you go in and put in their address here. Now, as you put it in and save it, then what's going to happen is this. The system will go and do a search, a 2-mile radius search from that address. And it's going to find the 5 closest homes that have sold that are closest to that address. So it'll find the 5 closest properties, and then it's going to send an email to Jay of listing activity or recent activity. That's what it says. The subject line is recent activity near, and then it puts his home address. The thing I like about that is when it puts recent activity near and puts their home address, they're more likely to look at it. So then they're going to go look at that, and he's going to see these 5 houses that are for sale, the closest 5. So let me make sure I say it again. See here, it does a 2-mile radius search, but it finds the 5 closest houses in that 2-mile radius to his house, and it's going to send an email with those. Now, I wish there was a way that I could control it in here to say how frequent I want it to do that, but you can't, unfortunately. So what it's going to do is it's going to weekly do that search though, and then send it to him of here's the 5 homes that are closest to you that are for sale. Now, what happens though is if for some reason it goes out and does a search and the 5 houses that are for sale are exactly the same as they were last week, it will not send an email. So that's the good news. What I have found on my own house is I tend to get an email about every 2 to 3 weeks. Now that's going to vary depending on the area that you're in. And what I mean by that is if there's a lot of turnover in, or not your area, but there where they live, if there's a lot of turnover, they're going to get an email probably every week. If there's hardly any turnover in that 2-mile radius, they're probably not going to get very many emails. That's the good thing, is it's going to send them what I found for me on my house is I tend to get it every 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. Now, the cool thing about that is that's what I did for Jay. And then pretty soon, all of a sudden, one day I'm teaching one of these classes. And let me go back to my contact list here. When I came into the contacts list, all of a sudden he was at the top of the list. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? So I clicked on it and hovered over the Zap score, and it showed me what was happening. Well, all of that took place just because I put him into this system and I added him to the home value updates. So if you don't do anything else, get the people put in here and sign them up for these home value updates so that it'll start sending to them. That's all I did with Brandon too back here, is I put Brandon in on that home value updates, and you can see he started clicking on it. People are concerned and interested in what's going on with real estate in their area. And so what I have found is, you can see I even have my wife set up on here, and you'll notice, on hers, when I hovered over it, I mean, it says 4 or more weeks ago that she has done anything, but that's still not bad, especially because for me, she always complains about how annoyed she is with getting spam emails. And yet she hasn't unsubscribed from this. She continues to get it. And in fact, it's interesting. At one point, there was a property in our neighborhood listed that was listed for $880,000, which was way overpriced. And she would make comments to me. Can you believe that and I was like, how do you know about, because I forgot I had signed her up on this. And she would make comments and I'd be like, how did you know the price of that property? And she's like, well, because you send me an email. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So just recognize getting people in here and set up on this, even if you do nothing else, is going to create some things for you. All right, let me see. It seemed like there was one other thing that I wanted to hit on with you guys for today, and then we'll be done. But let me see if I can remember what it was. Oh, yes, I know what it was. Okay, the last one is this new listing alerts. So the other thing that you can do, if you have somebody that is thinking about buying, so let's say that that Jay, since I'm in Jay's contact information here, let's say that he did tell me, hey, I want to buy something when we do sell, I want to buy in Murray. Great. What I would do then is I would come down to this new listing alerts, and you can see right here it says set one up now. If I click on set one up now, I can go through now, and it's tied to my website. So he's logged into my website. You can see up here at the top, it says you're signed in as Jay Despain. So it's essentially signed me into the website as him. And I could go through here then, and I could say, okay, he wants to find properties in Murray. So I'm going to come in here and type in Murray, Utah. And let's say that he wanted to have the price of, I don't know, let's just say 450 to 650. So I could scroll down here and just select as well. So now it's got it from 450 to 700, and I do a search. Okay, it's brought up 34 properties that would meet what he's talked about. Now I could do more filters here if I wanted to, but for what I'm showing you guys, you would go through and create the search. Then from there, I'm not going to do this, but if you click recommend search, it's now going to save that search. So that's the other thing that I would recommend when you get somebody that's thinking about moving. So let me go back and make sure you understand what I'm talking about. So this home value updates is going to do a 2-mile radius search from the house they live in or whatever address you've put there and bring the 5 closest homes. Doesn't matter what price, style, any of that stuff. The new listing alerts is going to be set up to where it's going to do a specific search based on their criteria in an area. And then it's going to send them an email every day that a property comes on that meets those needs. So those are kind of the two things that I would recommend you doing. And for me, I would do it this way, this new listing alerts, until if it's just somebody kind of in passing that mentions, hey, we might want to buy down the road. This is kind of what we're thinking. That's how I'm going to get that one set up. But when I get somebody that is saying, yeah, we want to buy, and this is the specifics, and I've gotten them pre-approved and they're like ready to go, I'm probably going to use the MLS over the Zap system. So think of it this way. Zap is going to be my way of enticing people to my website so that I can figure out if they're serious about buying or not. So when you come across somebody that's just like, oh, if you ever saw a good deal on something, then let me know. Okay, great. I'll go set up a search for you. But when you get somebody that's serious about it, I'm probably not going to set it up here as much as getting them set up on the MLS. And the only reason I say that is on the MLS, you can be a little bit more specific. So on here, I said you had the filters. So let me go back to it. I've got these filters here that I could go use. The difference is on the MLS, I've just got a lot more filters that I can choose from. So, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be bad to use this if they were thinking about doing something and they were pretty open. You didn't need to be real specific on what they're looking for. Then you could do it on here and not use the MLS. But for me, typically, I'm going to use the MLS for that. So, all right. What questions do you guys have? That's essentially the basics of getting you started on this.
Russ, I have one super quick question.
Sure.
So I'm wondering how you can delete a contact, and maybe I have to be in like the actual website instead of just doing it from like the phone app.
Yeah, I've never tried it from the phone app, but on the website here, if I wanted to delete someone, so let me just pull myself up here. If I wanted to delete it, you go to more right here. And so I could add a note here, sign in as the contact. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to show you guys too, is this is where you would ask for a review. Once you put them in, you'll go to more and ask for a review here. But then also is where I would go to delete them right there. So it's more and then go down to delete right there. So I've never tried it on the phone, Marissa, so I don't know if you...
Well, I'm not going to tell you what kind of phone I have because you're going to like chuck it. So cool. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, guys, what other questions?
Not related to this. This has been fantastic, and I look forward to using it. But as far as this Thursday, is there any, I mean, obviously it's Thanksgiving, so I doubt there's a class, but as far as like next week, what are we looking to expect there?
Oh yeah, good question. So yeah, next week, actually, thank you for bringing that up, Darren, because I actually would have forgotten to mention this. And so next week, actually, so starting the 30th of November, so in order to answer the question, I got to give you a little bit of background. So it used to be pre-COVID, I would go to California to do, so in Utah, we typically do the classes Tuesday, Thursday. Well, every 6 weeks, I would leave and go down to California, and I would bus through in a week all of the classes basically for the agents in California. Well, since I haven't been able to do that, what they want me to do instead is every 6 weeks, I'm doing the sales skills part of it. So next week actually starts the sales skills stuff, where basically what we will be doing is the initial plan was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. and in Utah from 10 to noon. So if we have anybody from California on, from 9 to 11, but Utah 10 to noon. And it would have been Monday through Thursday, but Tuesday next week, George is doing an Everest training thing that's like $35 to sign up for. And so next week's classes will be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. And the classes will be on Monday. So I'm going to have to kind of cram 2 into 1 on Monday. We're going to do the foundation and business planning next Monday, on the 30th. And then on the 1st, we won't do a class. And then the 2nd will be lead generation. And the 3rd will be, what's the 3rd? Oh, day 2 of lead generation. And then the next week we'll do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So the next 2 weeks, basically, we're going to do stuff Monday through Thursday, pretty much every day.
Sounds good. I'll just continue looking at the emails, but I appreciate it.
Okay, awesome.
I'm
All
sorry,
right, go ahead.
at the same time, 10 to noon, correct, next week?
Yep, correct.
Perfect, thanks.
Hey, one more thing on the Zap.
Yeah.
I already asked you about the My C21 site or whatever and the difference. And I thought you said there was a way to tether it. All I'm seeing is a way to redirect it. Is that all there is? That's the only option?
So no, how you would, and I don't know, I guess to me, when I'm saying tether it, it's more of like for people to be able to search, and when they sign up, it ends up on here, is on the My C21 under the section. I'll have to pull it up to see for sure, but there's a section for where to search the homes. Let me jump into 21 Online real quick and I'll show you.
Okay.
Maybe. Not sure what happened there. Uh-oh. Maybe I'll show you if I can sign in. I don't know what's going on. Let me try to start fresh here. Oh, all right. Well, I'm probably not going to be able to show you, but as you're going through, there's a spot to have it search, or you can use, I can't remember the way it's worded, but for searching homes, there's 2 different options, and you got to select the one, and then you put in a link to where you want it to go to search. And that's where you would drop in your Zap website link.
Okay.
So do you know where I'm talking about? Do you have it pulled up, or?
I have it pulled up. I'm not seeing it specifically.
Yeah, I was logged into 21 Online earlier today. I don't know what the problem is here.
Maybe they
Why
fired
it won't-
us.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see when I can get back logged in, and I'll find the spot, and then I'll call you.
Okay.
But it's I just, without seeing it in front of me, I can't remember where to tell you to click on. But
Right. The only thing that I can find is a domain name redirect and a button for redirect to Zap, which I don't think that's what I want.
oh, maybe they've updated it then. But so basically, that one would be just, yeah, like you say, it almost sounds like that's just directing them away from the C21.
It says it automatically deactivates your My C21 site. Like, oh, well,
Oh, yeah, no, that's not the one. Oh, I have seen that. I know where you're talking about on that. Yeah, no, that's not the one we want to do.
all right. I'll keep looking. Thanks anyways.
All right. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why it won't let me in, but anyway.
I've got one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're in the contacts or anywhere on this and you have maybe 2, like a husband and wife at the address that they're both on title, and you want to send them both information and updates and whatnot, can you do that? Like link 2 people to one account?
Yeah, great question. So you can do let me find it here. So you can add more contact information. So I could come down here and put another email address and put it in here. So there's 2 different ways to really kind of think about doing this and there is another spot for, let me find it, partners here, I think. Yeah, that you could put in another person right here. So here's how I typically think about it though, for me, is ultimately, I typically think the better way of doing it is to put them in as 2 separate contacts, is kind of as I've thought through. that's kind of, in my opinion, probably the better way is to have them in there twice. Put the husband in once and the wife in as a separate contact. But you can put in their information in there. I just am not 100% sure that it automatically sends the email to both email addresses. If you do this other, I think it just gives you the option to send to one or the other.
Okay.
So that's why I usually recommend, I've just found it's better to have them both in as separate. All right, anything else, guys?
Hey, sorry, Russ, really quick. I think
No, you're good.
It says it's under local content and then local property search.
Uh-huh.
And I can use Century 21 property search or use another search.
Yep, that's the spot. You would do the other search.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys, have a good Thanksgiving, and I'll send out an email reminder probably on Friday about the class on Monday. But otherwise, I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you. And Russ, you said it was
Actually-
Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right?
Yeah, next week's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And
Okay,
I'm doing
cool.
Monday morning ascent tomorrow, so I better see you guys all on morning ascent too.
See you in the morning.
Okay, see ya.
Thank you. Have a great
All right,
night. Bye.
See ya.